Today's conversation is all about navigating life in the corporate world, specifically for architects and designers. I want to say a big thank you again, for indulging us. I've met you, but there are so many other people who are meeting you for the first time. We don't take it for granted at all. So thank you. So let's jump right into it. Let's begin by talking about some of the key challenges that architects and designers face in the corporate world. What have been the biggest adjustments for you coming from a creative background and stepping into corporate architecture? Talk to us about your experience. How has it been navigating OAU and then coming into the corporate space?
All right. So, thank you. Thank you for the invite. Creatives generally, I would say, and creatives are found in almost every industry. It's not just architecture, advertisement, fashion, writers, musicians, anybody that, out of nothing kind of, has the ability to create something new. So from that standpoint, working as a creative in an architectural firm the fact that architecture is a marriage of art and science means that, in the midst of all the creativity, you understand that there are those barriers, or not barriers, there are restraints in how far your creativity can go, and you have to work within those restraints. But I don't see it so much as because I think sometimes the more the challenges, the more the obstacles, the more the opportunity for you to exhibit your creativity. So it's been interesting coming out of school. Most of us coming out of school, and I liked what you said when you said that most people, didn't have this opportunity, that where you are given, that your platform is given now. Coming out of school, a lot of us had no idea that taking that concept, that fantastic design that you've done, studios were always full of you put up a design, you defend it, you sell your dream, you're able to explain it, and if you put in enough work, you get your A, but that's just a concept, and that's really all, in your imagination. Architecture means that concept has to be built. The process of taking that concept from paper and all of that, what you had in school, to actual reality is where the big challenge comes in, which is why you talked about the corporate world and how you're now working in a structured environment. You're dealing with a lot more people. There is a client. Before it was just you and your lecturer, and if you did well enough, you impressed him, hey, you're a superstar. But out of school, there's your client, which could be one person or multiple people in board. There's the colleagues you have to work with, other consultants, because your building has to be engineered, your structures have to stand, your wonderful cantilevers that you got away with in school. Somehow it has to stand. So there's a whole lot of it's a collaborative process. You're working with so many people that you can't do that and still retain your full individuality. There are compromises that have to be made. There are skill sets that you have to develop, interpersonal relationships with consultants, contractors, seeing that the end goal is turning that, wonderful concept of yours into reality. And so, those are the challenges that, people begin to come across outside school, that all of a sudden, they begin to wonder, is this really what I signed up for? So those and it takes you applying yourself, understanding that if you want to be a part of it, if this is your journey, if you want to be an architect and practice architecture, not everybody would practice core architecture, and that's okay. We finished from architecture school. There's a lot of other industries, even related to architecture, where you can find you use for your creativity and excel. But if you're going to be in it for core architecture and you want to see what you've done come to fruition, because the gestation period of projects is so much larger than sometimes about 3 years from concept to finish, and because there are so many people involved in taking that from that wonderful idea on paper to reality, you have to develop those skill sets. So I think that's what it's been.
Awesome. So the first thing that really struck my attention from everything you just said is that architecture is a marriage. It's a union between arts and science. So it's
Right.
one thing to know, the creativity and wow, 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 wow design, 48 sheets, 69 sheets. And then the science of actually building those structures and seeing them come to life.
Yes.
So it's a balance really, balancing your creativity with everything else around that, the non-design department, HR, finance. But how did you survive really amidst all the politics? Because accounting is trying to make sure you don't spend too much money. You are trying to make your creativity go as wild as possible. How were you able to balance all those moving parts in the office space?
Okay. I mean, so as you said, I worked with. I started off with ACL. I was there for about 9 years. If you're working within a well structured architectural firm, there when I say well structured, management will have putting everything in place to ensure that you can do your work seamlessly
Mm,
without having to interact too much with the other parts of the firm that do not impact on what you do.
that's
So
right.
as an architect, you're kind of protected from a lot of, at least at a certain level. Starting off, you're you're giving projects, you're handling projects, so you're either handling as part of a team or as an individual,
Mm-hmm.
and your goal is really to deliver on that project. You take
Mm,
it from client briefing to coming up with a concept that the client would go with, and then having to interact with the other consultants you need to take it forward. Um, HR is there to ensure that the organization runs hitch-free
mm,
and that everybody is remunerated when they should be. Finance cost. So everybody does their bit. In some cases, if you're unlucky, if it's a smaller firm, you have same person possibly running everything, and then there might be some conflict of interest if there are interpersonal relationships that are not not going. I mean, if you have clashes of personalities, but I think at the end of the day, if you you know your onions, and the firm you're working with obviously have a job description that they expect to satisfy, and you're satisfying it to the best of your ability, you would get by.
mm.
It's not such a you would get by as long as you do your bit and do more than your bit really, because everybody loves a problem solver. Everybody loves everybody wants in every organization the hardworking people. Everybody knows who the hardworking people are. In a team of 10 people, who's the hardworking person? Everybody will point to the same person.
Mm,
So if you have all of those, you would survive pretty much in every. Whether your creativity gets stifled or not is really down to Um, and I would say it's the as your experience levels increase, you are able to manage that better. First off, you imagine that your creativity is all in all until they begin to the projects and resolving the details and all of that. Your much experienced architects or co-workers begin to let you know that, hey, you know as they say, you need to be calming down. But but over time, you know what works. You know what you would. There are times when engineers will tell you certain things can't be done. If you've
mm,
done your homework well and you know that, hey, it can be done, you
mm,
can actually argue for it, and in some cases get away with it.
mm.
So you also have to be a bit forceful, out of a sense of knowledge, from a place of knowledge. If you want to get certain things through, yeah, that's
Awesome. Awesome. So I have two more questions that I want you to touch on before we open the floor for every other person to chip in comments or questions. So I know that for creatives, sometimes it can feel like the corporate environment limits their ambitions. So yes, I want to pursue my career as an architect in a proper professional practice, but at the same time, I have my own creative projects. What advice can you give to young, creatives? Because architecture is architecture all over the world. The timelines are there, the strict deadlines are there, so it's time consuming. You have to be present when you're designing and when you're on site on a project. How do you combine that and balance it out with your other creative projects? You spoke earlier about other industries. What if I want to become a blogger? I don't want to look too tired after sight, to
Mm.
start home. I want to pass
Yeah,
it on, like we're doing
yeah,
tonight. So
yeah.
how can we balance that out?
I'll say it's difficult. It's difficult because architecture can be very demanding, almost like every professional endeavor. I would say medicine is equally demanding. If you want to practice law at the highest level, it is demanding. I mean, there are people that manage that. I think I would say, there are few people, there are those blessed, high IQ geniuses that can manage multiple things at the same time. But for the most part, um, if you really want to, keep that creative part of you, by doing something else while you practice architecture, you really have to put in like double the amount
Double
of
the
time.
effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has to be, and you have to be deliberate about it. You have to structure your work process such that you create time for everything and
Mhm.
ensure that you do, what you should do when you should do it, so that you don't get caught up in what. Most times, I would say, to be honest, something would suffer. Is either your architecture is not where you want it to be, or whatever thing you're doing on the side is not exactly where is not at that height. But I mean, it's something that individually you decide this is what, because not everybody is cut out for that
Professional
long,
practice.
yeah, the long game, because it's really a long game. I read somewhere that you never really become confident as an architect until they're about 50. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll try and look that up, And at the time, I think I read that maybe 20 years ago, and I was like, "What crap is this person saying?" At the time, I'm gonna be that. But I'm approaching 50. I'm not 50 yet, but I can see where that is coming from, because different projects, give up different challenges, and because projects have
Mhm.
such a long lifespan, you know, you might not work on. It's not like you work on like 100 projects in 20 years. You might just work on life projects, maybe 20, maybe 30, and with each project you're learning something new. You're learning something new. So it is manageable. I would say that because architecture is as much as anything a collaborative process. You're working there. There are too many moving parts. You have to be part of a team to succeed in getting projects to where you want it to be, and you have to know how to manage that team. Um, I would say that creatives would do well to develop those extra skill sets that help them reach that level. You have to be patient. There has to be a bit of patience. You will lose a bit of your individuality, which is something that creatives don't like to toy with, but it's the price to pay for attaining, a certain level of excellence.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So the final question before we throw it to the audience is politics, office politics. It's everywhere.
Mm.
Life is
Yeah.
politics, politics is life, especially where you have a large team, you have a huge team, and everybody is trying to outshine the other person. I
Correct.
mean, everybody is a creative, so it's a fight between the best.
Correct.
Everybody's trying to bring something great to the table. I know you've seen both sides of the divide. You've been in the structured environment, and now you oversee a structured environment.
Correct.
How did you survive politics in the structured environment, and then what advice would you give anyone who is coming into the office space, maybe from school, from NYSC or something? I'll use myself as an example. When I also graduated, I mean, I was great, and so I got a solid job with Bengali in Victoria Highland here. And it was a very good role. I was comfortable. But I just didn't like you know, I just felt like there was so much politics. Everybody just wanted to outdo each other. I didn't survive it. I left. I ran away to do my master's overseas. So what advice would you give to a newbie who is coming into the corporate space? You have great intentions. The boss is going to like me, they're going to pick my design. What do you have to say to that?
So I'd say, you know, um, life throws you curveballs at times, and you have to, learn to deal with it. Um, Not everywhere. I mean, as you said, there's politics everywhere. Once there are more than two people in a space, you know, people take sides, and that's what politics is all about, really. If you were fortunate enough to work in an environment where politics is not, it's not, they don't let it get in the way of achieving their merits or achieving their objectives and goals, lucky you. I think I was a bit fortunate to work in that kind of environment where it was really merit based. you know there was no angling or trying to, I mean, at some level, as you rise higher, yes, there's a bit of politics, people take sides and all of that, but that's the reality of the corporate world. If you're working in an environment where um, the atmosphere is too toxic, the high level of politics, as you said, is, you don't have to condone it.
Mm.
As you said, you left, you can leave. No, as a new entrant, don't feel constrained. Don't imagine that that is the way life should be, and you should accommodate whatever is thrown at you. No, I mean, you most likely would have friends and colleagues who work in other places. Talk to them, have hangouts, share their experiences. Um, I had a colleague who, when we finished, he applied for a job somewhere, and first day in the office, they told them that there was a roster, and everybody would be involved in sweeping the office. And, yeah,
What?
yes. And the first day he thought it was a joke. The first day he came in and he saw one of the supposedly senior partners actually sweeping the office. He left immediately. He didn't even waste any time, because that's not. So the people have all manner of organizations that they claim to be practices, but I'm sure you walk into an environment and you can tell, you can almost sense what level of professionalism is in there. Um, if it's not too bad, keep your head down, learn what you want to learn, because most times you're coming fresh from school, you really have no idea about the practice world. So if you find an environment where it's not toxic, there's no the politics is not so much as it were, keep your head down, learn the ropes, give yourself targets, 2 years to do your exam,
Mm-hmm.
or stuff like that, and just have your set goals. This is what I want to achieve. What do you want to be? I want to practice architecture. I need a practice license. I need to be fully registered. What do I need that for? I need 2 years, in a practice or somewhere, and have those goals. But if the environment is too toxic, please walk out of the door immediately, because life is too short, as it were. It doesn't mean that you should turn down every offer, but you can sense, and I said, you speak with your colleagues and friends, you'll be able to get an idea of what is good practice and what is absolutely bad practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. So we're just going to jump into the comment section now because we have a huge, it's like everybody wants to have a go at your mind tonight. So I'm just going to go through the questions. So the first question here is just as a follow up to what you just said now, that when you decide you want to start out, you want to have your own company, be registered with the body, the professional body in Nigeria. That's the NIA. I'm also a member. Ooh. So this question says that what are the most important things to put together when setting up a firm? What are the most important things to put together when setting up a firm?
So when setting up a firm, I'm assuming that you've practiced. First things first, don't set up a firm right out of school. You are going to you are going to you are going to you are going to get into trouble. I mean, people do it, but you are going to cost people money. You are going to cost clients money. You are going to get a lot of details wrong because the school environment does not. It gives you the academic background, the theoretical background to practice architecture, but it doesn't prepare you, which is why after school, to get you, medical school, once you're done with your housemanship, they give you a doctor, you're a doctor immediately, you can be called a doctor. But you come out of architecture school, you can't be called an architect yet until you go through that professional practice 2 years with under a licensed, under a registered architect or a firm, take the professional exams, and then get registered. And at that point, it is assumed that you've gone through all the different phases in putting together a project. Basic 3 phases, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. So I'm assuming that question is coming from someone who has gone through that phase and done some time, in practice. So you want to set up a firm, you need to be sure you have the client base first.
Wow.
Because
really?
If you set up a firm and you can't guarantee clients, it'll be tough. Because at the end of the day, architectural firms are really about projects. And projects are driven by clients. You can't set up a firm and, come up with your own projects in-house and design. It's not going to do, there's no, financing for it and all of that. So you need to be sure that at least they say you have one good client is enough to start off with. But the more you have, the better. And a client can be a relative. It can be your father, it can be an uncle, a rich uncle, it can be your friend. Yeah? But you need to have a client base. Secondly, you need to, for starters, you probably would do a lot of things because you have to keep your overheads a bit low. So you will be everything. You probably be, I don't know if you should get an office first because there'll be a lot of costs that you would incur. You'd be the accountant, you would be the HR, you would be everything. But at the end of the day, if you can, I set up the firm with a partner who had a similar background, and that way we were able to pull together resources. And when I say pull together resources, I mean pull together even clients. So if I had a client, he had 3 clients, at least we now have 4 clients, meaning we potentially have 4 projects that can pay for whatever space and all of that. So, I think it's important that you build relationships and build networks early enough while you're working, for whatever firm you're working, so that by the time you come out, people can trust you enough to say, hey, I've got this property in Ikeja Jari, 2,000 square meters. I think I want to do a residential development there on the ground plus 6 floors. I know you've worked on similar projects. I think you can handle it. Go ahead. So, without projects, an architectural
you can't survive.
they will struggle to survive.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We'll just jump into the. I hope that answered that person's question. Whoever, oh, I know that person. But okay, let's jump into the second question. It says that for your own architectural firm, I mean, COVID happened and it destabilized the whole world. And there's been that debate about hybrid, remote work, come back to the office. For your own architectural practice, how have you been able to adapt to that working model? Architecture, like you said, is very demanding and it requires you to be hands-on. So for this whole COVID thing, remote work, come to the office, I want to work from home. How have you been able to adapt that as a firm?
Right. So, I mean, yeah, COVID was a tough period, but and luckily technology, made it possible for us to, work remotely, even collaborating on the same file sometimes. Um, we managed, we had to manage obviously through that period, or else we won't be here. But I think because of again the collaborative nature of architecture, and I'm not just talking about um, collaboration between the architect and the other consultants, the structural engineer, the MEP. You know, I'm talking about collaboration amongst architects at a certain scale of architecture. The individual can only do so much. You normally we work a lot, you know, amongst ourselves. So we have designs that, case in point, we were working on a court building, and we had, 2, 3 different architects working on different options. We sat down to say, hey, almost like school, jury, put it up. What are the pluses and minuses? What are, design is like that. You have to come up with multiple options. Sometimes bad designs, bad solutions, but you have to come up with something for you to appreciate what the challenge is. So most times your first design is never it, but it allows you to understand what it is. And we find that a lot of that interaction, the back and forth, the debates and all of that, it happens better within, a physical space. So as much as COVID, enabled that whole remote working for us, I think we were at our most productive, or we have found that we are at our most productive where we are working from within the same space. Particularly when it comes to certain tasks. So for some of our tasks, if it's coordinating, sites remotely, and I mean, you have to visit sites, but if you are coordinating all of that, or some, detailed documentation, for instance, maybe working remotely works, because we do have, I mean, we still do a bit of remote working. We have staff who work one day from home and then the remaining 4 days in the office. It all depends on what aspect of the project you're working on. But for the most part, you find that physical space, I mean, sometimes if someone needs to come up with a design and he needs to clear his head, he doesn't want to be in the office, he could be away for a week. And that's fine. You give him, because the creative process sometimes needs, you just want to be by yourself. You just want to
Isolation.
You wake up in the middle of the night, you have an idea, and that's when that, eureka moment comes at 4 a.m. You're not in the office. It has to work. But in putting it together, in putting everything together, there's something that the physical space gives that you don't quite get working remotely. So I think it still has to be a hybrid of both, but I would still tend to be towards the, working within a physical space.
So yeah. I like what you said about the physical space where everybody can put heads together and, get on it, all hands on deck. So I have a follow-up question that I would like to ask now. Someone asked this in the comment section, actually. So imagine the scenario where everybody's hands-on in the office, and then maybe next week, there's a deadline, there's a timeline, there's a project that you're all working together and
Mm.
putting heads together over, and then one of your key players says, "Oh, he has to leave." Maybe there's a japa.
Mm. Oh,
That was so
talk about
funny. So, I
yeah,
mean, it's going to destabilize that process
yeah.
initially. But
Mm.
what are some of the buffers that you have put in place so that it doesn't affect everything?
Everything else. I mean, that's fantastic because yeah, that happens a lot.
It is what it is.
I have developed a thick skin for that now. Before it used to, shake us down to the foundations. But I mean, what we realized was that I would rather, and the truth about this whole jackpot thing, people leaving for better opportunities, in other
Mhm.
is that it's the really brilliant ones, the ones with prospects, as it were. Because they tend to be the ones that are restless, the ones that are, they always want to achieve more,
Dissatisfied.
do better. Yeah. Um, so you would find, the ones that don't have that kind of drive who would stay long. They're not jackpotting anywhere. They are here with you, but they're not giving you what the other first category of architects are giving you. So I think we've come to realization. I'd rather have that first category work with us for 2 years and
Okay.
Japa, because I know that for those 2 years we all benefit. The office benefits, because there's exchange of ideas. I am confident that the person handling whatever project is competent enough to handle it, and is he can take decisions. He's not laid back. He's proactive. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have that than have someone who's not very ambitious, quote and unquote, that's going to be with me for 8 to 10 years. Because that would be uh, entertaining some level of mediocrity.
That's right.
So if what we do is at all times where always multiple people are involved in projects, you rarely find a project where there's just one person working on it, where just one person knows everything about the project. You have multiple working on the project such that if one person decides to up and leave, I mean, normally we would, there's a 1 month notification period, and during that month, it's supposed to wind down and hand over. But
Mm-hmm.
because other people have been involved in the project, it's easier for them to, seamlessly. I mean, seamlessly, that sounds good, but we try to make it seamless to have someone take over the project, and at all times, the project must not suffer because the client doesn't know A from B. The client is working with the firm, and there's no it has to be a process of that the client must not know that because one person left, my project is suffering. So I'd advise anyone that has, if you can, always have at least one other person be very familiar with the project, such that
Mm.
when this
That's
thing
smart.
happens, and it will happen, it's as sure as death. It will happen. You will have your really smart guys knock on your door one day and say, "Can I have 5 minutes of your time?" And you need to be ready for that. But yeah, that's it. Always have a situation
A
where
backup plan.
yeah, all the files are accessible to everyone, so that the
Mm-hmm.
person doesn't just go and you can't find something. So you have to have a structure in place where the your filing of your projects and documents and all of that must be such that it's there's a standard process where everybody can find any file irrespective of whoever was working on it. It just follows a certain project code or location, and there are backups and all of that. It's if you have that place, you wouldn't suffer too much when you do have people leave like that.
Awesome. Okay, so because we're pressed for time, I'm just going to take one more question and then we'll call it a day. So this question is talking about Nigeria. I think the dollar as at yesterday was 1,700 naira. And
Mm,
so it is what it is. We're in this
mm,
country. What is going on?
mm.
Naira versus USD, pound is now maybe 2,000 something or something. So for
Yeah.
your own architectural firm, we would like to know how you have been able to win new projects. And then how do you approach potential clients differently today? Because the BOQ you sent or that was awarded 2 years ago, it has probably doubled in price.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
how are you coping
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah. I mean, so again, I think that's a brilliant question in the sense that um, there's no magic wand. There's no. I mean, sometimes you wonder yourself, but I think it's what I would say is these things are seasonal.
Okay.
Yeah, there are ups and there are downs. In every economy, in every Nigeria today, in the West, in the UK, in the US, there will be, seasons where it just seems like, there's no capital, finances are down, there's inflation everywhere, FX is mad, and it seems like nothing is happening. But
Mm.
it's a period, and I don't know how long it's going to last, but you have to be ready to ride out that wave. Knowing that nothing lasts forever, and
Mm-hmm.
in some time, not too far, not too far future, things would pick up again. Yeah. So I think for us, we've just tried to be consistent at what we do, which is running a merit-based professional consultancy service where
Mm.
our product speaks for itself and our
Mm.
clients. Yeah, I mean, in any architectural firm, your biggest, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, you don't have a lot of advertising and all that, but most jobs that we get, that a lot of architectural firms get, you get through referrals. You've done something for a client before, and the client has a friend that wants to do something similar. The client is in a board meeting and they're looking for an architectural firm. Your name comes to mind. Why? Because you had offered a service over and above what their expectations were, and
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't help but come back. I think that's what everyone needs to try and do.
Mm.
Try and always, because it's a competition. I mean, there are so many architectural firms out there. What are
Mm-hmm.
you doing differently? You need to find
Right.
something that you need to create a niche for yourself. If it's putting
Mm-hmm.
a documentation together, that is your strength. If it's your design, that is your strength. If it's executing the project, administering the project, and ensuring that it comes to budget, same quality time, that is your strength. You need to find something that is your strength that you are known for, and ensure that your clients know that of you, and you would get your referral. So I would say most of the projects that we've got, we don't have a heavy presence on social media. We're just trying to, push all of that. But most of the projects have come from clients that we've worked with who, have referred us to other people to say, hey, go to these guys. They would give you the kind of service you're looking for.
Mm.
It's tough. It's not, there's no sugarcoating it. It's been really tough. But I believe strongly that this is a phase. And if we can ride through this storm,
Mm.
I believe strongly that, you'll be setting up the firm for, a better place once things even out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all these valuable insights. We have just about 8 more minutes, and I want you in 3 minutes or 2 minutes caps. I want you to answer this question. It's actually someone in the comment section, and I think it's a very strategic question. It says that for a recent graduate coming into the corporate world, how do you handle expectations? Like the pressure can be high. Everybody just wants you to perform on the job, and it's not as if you've never walked that path before.
Yeah.
So how can organizations cut you some slack, and then how can you the staff and the employee match up to those expectations in just about 3 minutes.
Okay, so I'd say, honestly, most employers don't expect fresh graduates to be superstars. When I say superstars, they don't expect them to have a full knowledge of practice of, construction processes, of coordinating, working with other engineers. They really don't. What most firms are looking for is a willingness to learn, open-minded and a dedication to what to the projects you're handling. They expect that you do everything to acquire all of this fresh knowledge, because it is fresh knowledge. You're not going to get it from school. You get it on the job. You do everything to acquire this knowledge. Once you are put through something, you go out of your way to do some extra research and understand that thing to the T, and keep growing like that. What most employers don't want is to have someone come in and spend a year, 2 years, and it doesn't seem like they've increased, their knowledge base has increased at all. That's it. The expectations is come in, fresh ideas, we want you to, all those things you were doing, because the truth about it is, after a while, when you spend a lot of time on sites and, working in the real world, a lot of those creative juices start to diminish.
Yeah, and then the more you interact with everybody on your team,
you all of a sudden you know that but you get a new guy coming out of school fresh, he has this idea,
yeah,
and you're like, okay, you need that in at that point you're like, okay, this might actually work, and you guys can walk through that process of how do we make this work, giving the budget, giving the context, because you also have to think about what can your local builders, or what can what is available in the construction industry, what can that afford you in terms of design. You can help him, what's the word now? Manage that process. But employers are looking for
a willingness to learn.
Yeah, a willingness to learn.
Taking initiative.
Yeah, that's more important.
A willingness to learn, take the initiative, and then keep growing. Awesome.
Keep growing. Just keep growing. Nobody expects you to be able to fly a plane on day one, but keep growing. Yeah, awesome. Keep growing.
Thank you so much. Like, I feel fulfilled. I feel full. I've learned a lot from you. This is almost like a masterclass for those who are starting out. It fits those who are starting out. It fits those who are launching into the deep waters. And it even fits those who have been around for a very long time. So I want to say thank you again for your sacrifices. And I like where we are ending and capping it up tonight, which is keep learning, keep growing. And then the onus lies on everyone, whether you're new, whether you're old, to keep learning, really.
Correct.
Learning never stops. And so we really hope it has been value for everyone's time. We are looking forward to the next session next month. Of course, Architect Takang has done justice to this topic, and we're looking forward to next month's conversation as well. Please make Architect Takang feel very welcome in the comment section. Let him know that we really appreciate the time, the sacrifice, and all the nuggets, the insights that he has shared with us tonight. Thank you so much, Architect Takang. It's been a pleasure having you on the conversation tonight. If we have any other questions, I hope you don't mind. We can forward it to you, and then we'll broadcast the answer. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so please, guys, don't forget, this is another opportunity, to join our mentorship program. I'm not promising anything. No, Architect Takang has not told me that he's going to be a mentor. Or he didn't tell me anything. But what God cannot do does not exist. So you won't know if you don't try. And what's the worst or the best that can happen? Learn, and keep growing. I want to say a big thank you to the FGC team. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you for making today as seamless as possible. I know that we migrated onto this new interface and this new platform for just today. And we had a bit of a glitch at the beginning, but I'm happy that everything went smoothly. And for the very first time, we have on this call one of our mentors who is also celebrating his birthday today. So I'm giving you a shout out, Akteshe Aworo. Thank you for all that you do for FDC. Your birthday happens to fall on an Instagram live date, and so we just want to acknowledge you for being who you are in your own element. Yeah, so Takang, thank you once again. Thank you
Yeah.
for obliging us. We hope if we call on you some other time, you're going to honor us with a positive response. Thank you so much. All right, I can say good night now. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.